Okay, good afternoon, folks. I reckon, by our best estimations, we've got at least 400 plus coming along this morning, so that's a really good start to the morning. Okay, I'm Councillor Phil Scott. I'm a member of the Fire Authority and therefore one member of the decision-making process that's looking at the consultation process and proposals that we're going to be highlighting this morning. Having said that, my starting point today here is I've got the greatest respect for our senior officers here today, Neal and Andy. I think they do a fantastic job for East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service, absolutely do. But on this particular issue, I fundamentally disagree with the proposals being put forward, and I'll tell you why. We do understand the financial pressures that East Sussex Fire and Rescue face. Clearly, they need to think outside of the box and need to be fairly radical in how they address some of the issues. Of that, there's no question. But this is a deprived town, nationally recognised as such, and actually you don't take resources out, you put resources in. That's really where some of us are coming from. It's a shame that Amber Rudd, the MP for Hastings and Rye, can't be here today. She's at the Conservative Party conference up in Birmingham, and I would have thought she would have been along here this morning listening to your concerns about your local fire service. Clearly the conference is a far bigger draw. Okay, so the proposals in a nutshell then are very much to redeploy resources from the Ridge Fire Station across to Bohemia and downgrade the Ridge Fire Station to a retained only. That is not an acceptable position for me, and clearly not an acceptable position for you either as a local community. There are very good reasons why historically we've had 2 fire stations here. There's no question about that. The risk hasn't reduced, it's increased because we're getting more developments right the way along through the ridge and outside of those areas. So in terms of housing and development, there's more, not less. If you redeploy the resources to Bohemia Fire Station, what will happen, in my view, and of course a lot of other people are saying exactly the same thing, you will leave the northeastern part of the borough exposed to fire risk. Attendance times will be increased as a result, and potentially people's lives could be lost. That's really where I'm coming from, and a number of other people. Equally, the Old Town, where we've got some extremely unique buildings, timber-clad if you like, and others. If you get one of those catching light down in the Old Town, attendance times could mean that by the time folks get there, fire service get there, despite their best efforts, you might have a string of those houses down in the Old Town on fire, and we can't have that. I did have and have had a number of statistics which are East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service's own statistics actually. They talk about high risk of fire risk down on the Broomgrove Estate, for example. At least half of those homes, and this was gleaned from the fire service via a Freedom of Information request. At least half of the homes are high risk fire risk. Is that me done? Yeah. Oh, it only just started. Look at that. Anyway, folks, I'm fundamentally opposed to the proposals.
Councillor Fawthrop.
Good morning. Is it working?
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Terry Fawthrop. I'm a... Hello. Shout a bit, he says. Right, good morning. My name is Terry Fawthrop. I'm a member of the Fire Authority, and fundamentally, I can't disagree with what Councillor Scott's just said. But I think it's probably worthwhile just put it in perspective a little bit as to where we are, where we've come from, and what the reason for this was. 2 years ago, we asked the Senior Fire Officer, the Chief Fire Officer, to do a review of Hastings, which he did. This was presented to the panel in July, and there were 2 proposals on the agenda. One was to close the ridge and one was to downgrade it. Both these proposals went forward to the full Fire Authority. Now, to close a fire station, that is the Fire Authority's responsibility. It is not the Chief Officer's, it's the Fire Authority's responsibility. To downgrade a fire station is the Chief Officer's responsibility. It's an operational matter. It's an operational matter. Sorry, I didn't realise you couldn't hear. It's an operational matter. So, when we came to the full fire authority, we threw out the first item on the agenda, which is to close the Ridge Fire Station. We weren't going to look at that at all. The item left was to downgrade the Ridge. If we'd have thrown out the consultation procedure, the chief officer could then have downgraded it without coming to you. That is why I voted for consultation. That is why we're all here now, because consultation has started. If the authority had gone against that, the chief officer, in his operational capacity, could have moved his staff about as he's entitled to do any time he wants to do so. That's where we're coming from. That's where we are. Now, I argued at the Fire Authority meeting more or less what Councillor Scott's just said now, so I'm not going to repeat it all. Otherwise, we're going down the panel repeating the same thing over and over and over again. What we need to look at, where we're coming from next, is the Fire Authority meeting in December, when the consultation will be in, when we will look at what people have said, what people want, and what people want us to do. Then we can make a decision about what we do. That is where we are. Now, like I said, I can repeat a lot of things. As I said, most of the things that Phil Scott said, I said at the Fire Authority meeting. I'm not happy with the 33 people that are at risk in this area. I wasn't happy with the, since the review started, they built the Jerwood, and the seafront is now chock-a-block, and getting a fire engine along the seafront this way could possibly take longer than what it would have done when the review started. There's all kinds of things I wasn't happy with, and these again I shall be arguing at the next Fire Authority meeting to get some answers. If I don't get the right answers, then I shall be voting against this proposition. Simple as that. But there we go. I'll leave it at that for the time being, and I'll answer questions later. Thank you.
Hello? I can shout. Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for inviting me here. And second of all, it's fantastic to see such support for our local fire station. Thank you. But ultimately, we shouldn't all be here. This should actually be a very sad day that we've had to get into this room, that we've had to march to hear people's views about how deeply they care for their fire station. Now, I'm not saying this just because I'm born in Hastings. These are my friends and my family that are going to be put at risk because of these fire cuts, or because my dad was a firefighter in Hastings and at the Ridge, or because a lot of the firefighters in this room are people I went to school with and grew up with. After the July 7 bombings, I went to work for the London Fire Brigade in emergency planning. Now, I'm not pretending that anything as serious as that is going to happen here in Hastings, but when it does, you've got to think about the risk, you've got to think about the resilience. And ultimately, you will be left with a worse fire service than you currently have. And that is not something that I'm prepared to stand for. Now, what Terry didn't tell you was that he was among some of the other councillors, Conservative councillors, that voted for this consultation. You said it yourself. I would never have said that this has got to come to consultation. He had the power to throw this out and he didn't. And today you've been failed. Because I don't think there's any one person in this room today, please feel free to put your hands up, who says that he spoke for you then, because I think he's failed you. Now Michael, now Matthew has got an unenviable task, and I'm pretty sure you'll hear him damning me for saying this is party politics, but actually it's not. It was about people politics. And as politicians, you're supposed to put your residents first, and I don't think they did. And I don't think Amber's done by not being here today. I can tell you solemnly that I will never leave you with a fire service cover that is worse off than what you've got now. I'm not going to stand for it for Orr, I'm not going to stand for it for the Ridge, I'm not going to stand for it for the villages, and I certainly won't stand for it in Hastings. So I'm going to be quiet now, because this is an opportunity for you. This is a public meeting for you to tell your elected councillors and the fire brigade officials what it is you want from your fire service. It's your money, and you should be able to say where you spend it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Councillor Matthew Locke. The first thing I want to say is, at the back of the room, there are several petitions that are there. Sarah has a petition that's going to Parliament. Amber has a petition that's going to Parliament. And I think, Phil, you've got your petition.
No, ours is a residents' one.
Residents' petition as well. That gets your voice heard. I was with Amber yesterday. She sends her apologies for not being here today. She is up at conference, and there are certain things in the new role that Amber has where she has to be up at Parliament or up at the conference to be dealing with other issues as well. She is dealing with those other issues as well. It's very easy to say that she should be in 20 places all at the same time.
Just one place. Here.
But let's.
Sorry. Can we just make sure Matthew can have his say? Questions will come later, but let Matthew finish his speech. Thank you.
Let me just say to you that when I discovered this, and I spoke to Amber, that this change was happening, it took 2 weeks for her to get an appointment with Des, the fire chief. She rang instantly wanting a meeting there and then. I had to wait till 2 weeks before Des rang me to explain the situation. And one of the points I would put forward is I think the consultation is flawed. It took 3 weeks before the Fire Authority put anything in the Observer newspaper to let people know that this consultation was taking place. Until then, nobody knew it. If it hadn't been for Amber, myself, the people in St Helens, when we went out, getting petitions signed, getting people to know that this was taking place, they wouldn't have known. Des accepts the point that they have made a mistake in not letting the elected people know that this was coming up and it was going to be on the agenda. We discovered after the decision had been made. I'm against the changes that are coming in for the Ridge Fire Station. One of the things that I don't think is in the consultation is the health side of things. We all know that those people that smoke, you have a higher risk in your houses of fires happening with people that smoke. Hastings has the highest cancer, the highest heart attacks in the southeast. None of that has been taken into the consultation. And we all know some of the areas that there are that the Ridge looks after that would be at high risk if that actually happened. So I think they need to go back to the drawing board. I've looked also at some of the consultation, the maps that are there with the red spots on which say where there are fires. Look at it in Hastings. There are more fires in Hastings because part of the argument is Eastbourne doesn't have 2 fire stations, therefore Hastings doesn't need one. That is not proper consultation. It needs to be done properly, and I would say you need to stop the consultation and start it properly, giving everybody the proper time to respond to the consultation. Thank you. I think I'm out of time.
I can't shout as loud as him. Can you hear me at the back? Yeah. Hi, my name is Mark Brown. I'm here to represent the firefighters at Hastings. So I'll start off with some advice for you. Fire kills. Don't drown in toxic smoke. In a fire, every second counts. Good advice? Well, it should be. These were all government slogans used in television campaigns to inform you, the public, that fire and smoke, given a few seconds, can take your life. Well, despite this advice, East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service believe it's okay to leave you, the public, waiting, not seconds, but an extra 5 whole minutes. Why? Well, based on what I call market research, it is more likely a fire will occur in the areas around Bohemia Road than the Ridge Fire Station. However, when they do occur, we the firefighters rescue people and we put out lives. The Ridge arrive around 5 minutes later, and together both crews deal with the incident. The same applies for fires to the north of the town. The Ridge crew get there quickly, and Bohemia Road turn up 5 minutes later, and again they assist. Historically, that system works. However, if both fire engines are at Bohemia Road, you won't have a quick response time to the north and the surrounding villages. Now, bearing in mind a fire doubles in size every minute that we're not there to fight it, you call us, 3 minutes later, we arrive. That fire will be 8 times bigger. If you add a further 5 minutes to that, it will be 256 times bigger than when you first called for help, which I think is pretty scary. In every fire, there is a window of opportunity for firefighters to enter your home and rescue you. If the fire is 256 times bigger, I'm not sure what your chances of being rescued would be. I'd say they were pretty remote. But that won't stop us trying. There's not a single firefighter across both stations in Hastings that would not try his damnedest to rescue you. But there lies yet another problem. We're now putting our firefighters at a greater and unnecessary risk. It goes without saying, fire deaths will increase. Deaths in road traffic accidents will increase. Insurance costs will increase. Now, the real reason why this proposal has been put out for consultation: financial savings. The chairman of the Fire Authority openly admitted to local firefighters that this review is based around cutting costs. The review of Hastings fire cover was never commissioned to reduce fire deaths or increase public safety. It was designed to reduce costs. This proposal to downgrade the Ridge Fire Station will put lives at risk. Ladies and gentlemen, I have one clear message for the members of the Fire Authority. Give your firefighters the time to save lives. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Michael Wincott. I'm the Borough Councillor for Orr. Councillor Locke said a few moments ago that nobody told the elected politicians about this consultation. Well, Councillor Fawthrop is an elected politician who serves on the Fire Authority. Councillor Joy Waite is a Conservative politician serving on the Fire Authority. So you'd think that the local Conservative Party do meet up together, have a group meeting and discuss these things. And you think the first thing that they would say to their MP is, this is coming up, what do you want to do about it? So the excuse that nobody told us, I'm sorry, it doesn't wash. All politicians are the same. Well, you're wrong there, because we have two Fire Authority members here in front of you. One voted to take this to consultation, so proceed to the next stage, and one voted against. If all the Fire Authority members abstained or voted against this proposal, they could have said to the officers, you know, the people that put this report together, I'm sorry, we don't accept it, go back to the drawing board and make you cut somewhere else, from the back room. Because they're all elected, these politicians, including myself, by saying no frontline cuts. Right? Well, this is a frontline cut. Fire engines that are further away, you know, obviously take longer to get to a fire. We've got the link road that's just been approved. There will be more traffic on the ridge. There will be more road traffic accidents along the ridge. Sure. Councillor Fawthrop and Councillor Scott are paid over £2,000 a year to represent the Hastings people on the Fire Authority. And I'm sorry, but the people of Baird and Orr are universally saying to Councillor Fawthrop, you have let us down by voting to take this to consultation. I've got just a minute left, so I'll just read a case study which is on the website of the Save Our Fire Station, because I think it really illustrates the point. In July 2012, fire crews from Hastings, Bohemia Road and the Ridge were called to a fire in Waterside Close, with persons reported inside. The call was received by the police just after 3 o'clock in the morning, and travel times were really light. The Ridge full-time engine took 1 minute and 40 seconds to get there, under 2 minutes. The Bohemia Road engine, because it was a serious fire, took 6 minutes and 14 seconds. The crew rescued an adult from the first floor and 2 children from the second floor before the arrival of both the crew from Bohemia Road and the retained crew from the ridge, the extra engine. Had the proposals been implemented, the first attendance could have been from Bohemia Road and the retained crew from the ridge. The extra 4 minutes and 34 seconds of travel time from Bohemia Road for the first attendance could have proved fatal. We're against it. I mean, you don't need to have another meeting talking about the consultation because we are all against it. So think again.
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me? Good. My name's Andy Reynolds. I'm the Director of Prevention and Protection. I'm a member of the corporate management team for East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service. I just want to explain a little bit about the governance arrangements because I think that's quite important. The East Sussex Fire and Rescue Service covers the East Sussex County Council area and the Brighton and Hove area, the Brighton and Hove City Council area. We are a standalone fire authority, which means we're not a member of a county council. We're not a department of the county council like West Sussex is. Okay. As a standalone fire authority, we're governed by 18 elected members, and I'm pleased to say we've got 2 of them here today. 6 of those members come from Brighton and Hove, and 12 come from East Sussex. The fire authority determine the number of fire stations that we have covering both those constituent areas. They determine the fire stations, the duty systems, the number of firefighters we have on duty, and the number of fire engines and other vehicles that we need in this service area to provide a service that you as the council taxpayers are willing to pay for. The fire authority set the budget. They place a precept. As we're a standalone fire authority, we precept on the council tax. On your council tax bills, it will show you what you pay for the fire and rescue service. Some while ago, the fire authority asked us as professional officers to look at how we provide a service in the Hastings area, and that is what we have done. Neal, who will speak to you in just a minute, Neal and his team have looked at a variety of sources of data that we use to map our services across the county and in Brighton, and is used across the whole of the English fire and rescue services. We have done that and we've presented that to the fire authority. As a result of that evidence of data that we've produced, the fire authority have provided a recommendation, and that recommendation is to remove the whole-time fire appliance based at the Ridge and to relocate that at Bohemia Road Fire Station in Hastings, and to maintain a retained duty system appliance at the Ridge. Okay. That recommendation is based on risk, and Neal will cover that in his 3 minutes that he's got, and we're happy to answer questions on that. It is based on risk. It is not based on financial savings. There are some financial savings that come with that, but it is based on risk, and I'm quite happy to talk about that. I'm being honest with you, and that's what you want from me, presumably. We've been asked to consult with you. That's why we're here today. That's why we're doing some other things. That's why we're talking with members of staff, carrying out staff visits at both fire stations and undertaking some other activities. The Fire Authority have determined what that level of consultation will be. To finish, no decisions have been made. Decisions are made on the 13th of December at the Fire Authority meeting, and it is a matter for the Fire Authority. The Fire Authority can either agree to the recommendation. If I could just have my 3 minutes, please. Thank you. It is a matter for the Fire Authority because the Fire Authority will vote on it. Okay? Now, the Fire Authority can come back to us as professional fire officers and say, actually, we'd like you to go and look at something different. They might say, we're quite happy with service provision in Hastings, and that's fine. But again, it is a matter for the Fire Authority to determine. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Neal Robinson, the Head of Community Risk Management, and my boss here explained that it was my team that carried out the analysis and looked at the risk profile in Hastings. I just really want to emphasise some key messages that came out of that, because it really demonstrated that perhaps we aren't best matching our resources to the risk, because some of the key headlines were that 60% of all the households in the Hastings area sit within the Bohemia Road fire station area. 79% of all the high-risk households sit in the Bohemia Road area, and 72% of all incidents occur in the Bohemia Road area. There are also more of the deprived areas that sit within the Bohemia Road area, and there is also more high and very high-risk areas within the Bohemia Road station area. The majority of those significant incidents in Hastings can be reached within 8 minutes from the Bohemia Road fire station. It's also true to say that some households would have a slight delay in service provision, and that's always been open, and the Fire Authority have been made aware of that. Now, let me just finish with my 3 minutes and some key messages. Let's remember that this Fire Authority and service has worked hard to reduce fire deaths and injuries over the years, and in the last 20 years there's been a 50% reduction in deaths and injuries, and that's because of the preventative work. And again, one of the aspects is that remember that the resources in Hastings during the day are out doing preventative work and community safety work, and that would continue if such a proposal was endorsed by the Fire Authority. And really, I think it's also important to remember that I've had to dispel a couple of times, this is not a closure fire station, this is not a loss of fire engines, and there's no redundancies, anything like that. So this is about, the team was asked to look at the risk profiles, the data analysis and incident history, and these are some of the headline messages that have been put to the Fire Authority.